So in today's video, we're going to have the discussion, do you even need plus P plus 44 Magnum ammunition? The ammunition I'm going to be testing today, this is going to be the Doubletap ammunition, marked Colt on it for some reason. I guess Doubletap has a relationship with Colt. It's a 240 grain solid hardcast round. It is a semi-wad cutter profile here. See if the camera can pick it up. I apologize ahead of time for the lighting. I'm in fall, so it is some harsh lighting to deal with, but hopefully we can get everything seen. I thought this was a 250 grain, but it's a 240 grain. I must have been thinking of 45 long Colt. As you can see here, semi-wad cutter profile. This is a very old-fashioned round, but it is still full power, within SAAMI spec 44 Magnum. This ammunition is safe to shoot in any 44 Magnum, even down to the Smith & Wesson Model 69, the small 5 shots, even the Taurus Tracker 5 shots. This is very basic, within SAAMI spec 44 Magnum, like I said. And if you want to just how this ammunition does, I'm going to do a velocity test. I'm going to do my penetration test where I'm shooting it through my sand that I have here on the property, the clay sand. I'm going to do the same penetration test of the boards, and we're going to see how this round does. If you want to see that, just go ahead and fast forward to this timestamp, because I've had people say that I'm giving bad advice. I've had people say that, ask me why I'm ruining my 44 Magnum here by shooting this plus P plus ammunition. So I'm going to do a little bit of a talking on why I use the plus P plus ammunition. Do I recommend it? Because I don't recall telling anybody that you need plus P plus ammunition. I didn't say anything along the lines, if you don't have this ammunition, you're going to get killed in the woods by a grizzly bear. I have not said anything of that sort. So we'll clear that up now. Like I said, if you want to see just the testing on this, go ahead and fast forward to that timestamp, and you can see the testing and just my kind of synopsis of this round. Now, let's get into it. Why do I carry the plus P plus ammunition? Is it even safe to shoot? Is it safe to shoot in this Colt Anaconda? Because a lot of people think I'm just going to be tearing this gun up by shooting this ammunition. Now, if that was the case, I wouldn't be shooting it. I think I've done a pretty good job showing this ammunition on camera, even the underwood. This ammunition falls right out of the cylinder. I almost don't even need to use the ejector rod. 360 grain holds up a little bit more in the cylinder, but really nothing more than any standard 44 Magnum. There's any pressure signs really on the case. There's no weird primer problems. The primers aren't completely flat. There's no weird primer flow where the primer's like backing up into the firing pin channel. There's nothing like that with this ammunition. I don't see anything about this ammunition that says it's unsafe. Now, it looks almost the same as any standard 44 Magnum. This gun is probably excessively big, even for anything in 44 Magnum. I think some people don't realize just how big this gun is. I'm going to get it unloaded here. We're going to do some comparisons between it and my Smith & Wesson here. I have brought out a couple of my Smith & Wessons. Right here, this is my Smith & Wesson 28 Highway Patrolman. This is a 357 Magnum gun, but it's the end frame. This is the exact same frame that the 44 Magnums are going to be put on, but comparing this to the Anaconda here, this gun is dainty. I mean, this gun is basically flat out dainty in comparison. If you look at the top strap of the Smith & Wesson compared to the Colt, there's a lot more material. If you look at it in this direction, you can see how much wider the Colt is. It is quite a bit beefier. The cylinder in diameter is a wider cylinder. The length of the cylinder, obviously, but even if this was a Model 29, it's still a lot longer cylinder. Actually, this Smith & Wesson cylinder, as it sits here, because this has recessed chambers, it's probably actually about the length of a modern 29 or 629, just because the cylinder has recessed chambers, so it's a little bit longer. So actually, it's probably a pretty fair comparison. It's probably about how long a Smith & Wesson cylinder in 44 Magnum would be compared to this Colt. Hopefully the camera's picking that up. Some other dimensions you can see here. If you look right here in the back of the frame, compared to the Colt has a lot more material back here. That just aids in the frame's not stretching. The same for the front here, where the yoke is. You can see here, hopefully you can see, Smith & Wesson is a good bit smaller. Just in almost all directions of this gun, it is a smaller gun compared to the Colt. Now, obviously, size doesn't always mean everything. Material and design has a huge play in it. But when it comes to material, I think this Colt has a stronger material than even the Smith & Wesson, even a blued Smith & Wesson like that made of carbon steel. I think carbon steel guns are generally stronger. But if I can show here, this Smith & Wesson does not have many rounds through it. It was basically unshot when I got it. I probably only put 200 rounds through it, and I don't think there's any way the camera's going to be able to see it up there. Oh, maybe it will. You can see that flame cutting on the top strap. It's not a lot, but it's there. There's actually a little bit. Yeah, you can see how beefy that forcing cone is on a 357 here. Hopefully we can. See if my finger back there. I've got a little bit of erosion. It's not much, but it's just that the cylinder isn't as sharp anymore. When I got this gun, it was very sharp, but it's actually kind of rounded the edges in there. So again, I don't think the steel on Smith & Wessons, and especially in stainless steel, is anywhere as hard as this Colt. This, like I said, this is a very durable gun. I've mentioned that in my last video about how well this gun is handling scratches. It's doing beautifully. So like I said, I don't think there's any worry or any issue with this with shooting this plus P plus ammunition in this Colt. I think I've made that clear. Like I said, I put about 200 rounds of this in it, and I put about 200 rounds of the standard pressure. Like I said, I can't tell much of a difference whatsoever when the spent casings come out. They're about the same to me. I think you could hand it to anybody and they wouldn't even really tell a difference. Again, this ammunition is still not safe for any gun. Most of the ammo manufacturers out there, they tell you on the website what this ammunition is safe for. Most of the time, it's just going to be Rugers. And now, if it's 44 Magnum Ruger, you're pretty much safe. The 45 Long Colt Rugers, that's when things get a little bit confusing. When you get into like the new Vaqueros, those are smaller frame guns. Those are basically competition guns. I think they have like max PSI of 18,000. At least the one that I had, I believe that's what I was told. So again, but when it comes to 44, if it's a Ruger and it's 44, it can basically handle this round. Now, getting into why I even use this ammunition. Well, truth be told, I really wanted a 454 Casull. I wanted that power factor in about a 4-inch gun like this. At least from my testing, a 454 Casull, 1,300 foot-pounds of energy. On the box, they usually say 1,700, 1,800 foot-pounds of energy. Out of 4-inch revolvers, I had the only 454 Casull I had was a Taurus, so I know some people are going to say, "Oh, that's why it was so weak." I don't know about that, but I only got about 1,300 foot-pounds of energy, I think, on average with that gun. That was even with the lighter rounds. With lighter rounds, it's a lot easier to hit those foot-pounds of energy. Like I said, that was the 454 Casull that I owned, and out of 4-inch barrels, that's basically what you're going to expect with 454 Casull. Well, that's what we're basically getting with these 44 Magnum plus P plus. So I'm kind of mimicking that energy. And one of the reasons I want that energy, I think it's a really good round. I think I've shown that just shooting, more tough barriers to get through. Now, do I think I need this against grizzlies or anything like that? Well, I don't live in grizzly country. I live in the Smoky Mountains, so I only have black bears. Now, the black bears do get very large here, surprisingly large. I've chased off quite a few black bears. Now I have this gun in my hand generally, but I'm usually just running out and yelling for them to leave, and they leave. Now, like I said, it just gives me a little bit more confidence to have this plus P plus, especially in the grain weight that this ammunition is in. Getting 1,200, 1,300 foot-pounds of energy out of these rounds, it definitely gives me that confidence. But one of the biggest things is barrier penetration. It's something I've said before in other videos. I used to be a delivery driver, and I had a couple of instances. One very notable instance, I was bringing a fridge across the street in this apartment complex, and this car blows by me. I mean, within inches of hitting me. I was pulling a dolly with a fridge, and I mean, they were probably going 50 miles an hour in an apartment complex. And I don't even remember what I said. I probably just yelled F you or something like that, just as a reflex. They slammed on their brakes so hard, their car spun sideways, and I could see them staring at me through the window. And they were really contemplating whether or not they wanted to run me over and kill me. And after that happened to me, I realized, man, I need something to get through windshield. Having a heavier, even more assuring plus P plus 44 Magnum, I know this is going to get through windshields. This is going to get through auto body doors if I have to. This ammunition is going to perform. That's one of the reasons why I do these penetration tests, these hard barrier penetration tests, shooting through the soil I have on this property, or the clay sand I call it, shooting through boards. Eventually, I would like to do more of a scientific style of testing with this ammunition, get ballistic gelatin, maybe make my own, figure out how to do it, and then we can do different rounds, because I don't think ballistic gelatin really is necessary to use for this type of ammunition, but I'd like to get it made so we can test it. Now, getting into one really big reason why I have this, why I have a 44 Magnum in general, instead of going to a 454 Casull or something larger, is lever actions. At some point, I would like to get a lever action rifle to go with this. I've owned a few lever actions in my life. 30-30s, I think, is the ones I've owned the most. Marlins especially. They used to be very affordable. I've owned a Winchester 92, or was it not? I'm sorry, a 94. It was a Winchester 94 in 30-30. But yeah, eventually I'm going to get a rifle in 44 Magnum to go along with this. There isn't a whole lot of options of 454 Casull. The only one that I really know of is the Razi whenever they're not discontinuing it. It seems to come back for a little bit and then they discontinue it. But again, that's kind of your only option. One other thing I forgot to show was the weight. This is something I wanted to show is the weight difference between the Colt and the Smith & Wesson here. This Colt weighs 51.6 ounces. It is a very hefty piece of metal here. Colt has really over-engineered this gun in comparison to a Smith & Wesson here. This is my Smith & Wesson 625. This gun does have the shorter overall length cylinder, just like the Model 28 that I showed there. So it is a little bit lighter, but then again, it is a 5-inch gun. It does have some lightning cuts, but this gun is very similar to the weight of a Smith & Wesson 629 or a Model 29 in 44 Magnum. This gun is very close, and the weight of this gun is 41.4 ounces. There is a 10-ounce difference between these revolvers. They develop a little bit of in-shake very quickly within 2 boxes of ammunition, about 40 rounds. But that in-shake has not progressed at all. This gun basically still has no in-shake to it. It's just got a little bit of play, but that is within spec. That's very normal with any revolver, especially one that now I've got about 400 rounds through it, about 200 rounds of this Plus P Plus, and about 200 rounds of, well, I say standard pressure, but it's still defensive ammunition. So this gun has been holding up incredibly well. I have no concerns with this gun shooting the Plus P Plus ammunition. Like I said, I think it's completely overbuilt for even the Plus P Plus. I really would not be worried about it. If I did, like I said, I would not be shooting it. Something else I forgot to mention was one of the reasons why I picked 44 Magnum is both of this ammunition I was able to get on the shelf at my local dealer, where I picked my Colt Anaconda up from. This is some Hornady here. This is the Handgun Hunter. This is solid solid copper projectile. And then I've got the Doubletap controlled expanders here, 300 grain controlled expanders. These are just basic jacketed soft point ammunition here. But that's one of the benefits to 44 Magnum is it's on the shelf. Basically, anywhere you go that has a gun, they're going to have some type of 44 Magnum. Unlike if you have a 454 Casull or like I said, a 475 line ball or 480 Ruger, that's not the easiest ammunition to find. So at least with the 44 Magnum, you're always going to have at least ammo somewhere. It may not be the exact ammo you want. Now, I guess with the 454 Casull, you have the ability to shoot 45 long Colt in it. But most 45 long Colt you're going to get is pretty weak. I'm not going to say it's not a good defensive round if you need to use it, but most of it's probably going to be around the 400 foot-pounds of energy, even in the defensive stuff for 45 long Colt. Unless it says Plus P on it, you're not really going to get it very hot. There's not a whole lot of middle ground when it comes to 45 long Colt. It's kind of a shame. Like, I wish they had made stuff that's more in the softer 44 Magnum territory, something in the generates 700 foot-pounds, 800 foot-pounds of energy. That would be really nice. I'm surprised nobody makes stuff like that. If they do, actually leave that in the comment section. I'd like to know if that ammunition is available. But yeah, like I said, this is one other reason why I bought the 44 Magnum. At least there's ammunition somewhere for it. So that's kind of my main reasoning on why I use 44 Magnum. Hopefully that answers some questions. But let's get to shooting on this Doubletap 240 grain hardcast. Okay, I'm loaded up with 6 of these Doubletap Colt 240 grain semi-wad cutter hardcast rounds. I've got 6. I'm going to shoot 5, and then we're going to check to see if there's any bullet pull on these. There shouldn't be. They're pretty standard pressure 44 Magnum. We're going to run them over the chronograph, see if I can get a 5-round average. If I'm not happy with that group, I'm going to move the chronograph out of the way. We'll shoot 5 more and see if I can do a little bit better. Sorry again about the harsh lighting. Hopefully we can see everything I'm doing. And if I didn't say, I'm standing about 10 yards. I usually stand about 12, just a little bit closer. 1201. 1169. 1163. I think I can still shoot my plate there. 1209. 1174. Those are pretty pleasant to shoot. I'll bring up the foot-pounds of energy, the TKO, and let's see what those did. All right, something I would like to show here. There's the one round. Up. Fall right out. See here. And that lighting is rough. As you can see, there is no bullet jumping the crip. At least that I can see at all. All right. There's my group. Not too bad. That one, I don't know what happened. That was my very first round, but we'll see. That looks like it tumbled a little bit. I'd be surprised if it did, but I'm going to set up another plate and see if we can shoot that any better. All right, I am already unimpressed with this double tap. You can see that huge flake of lead right there. Might be like a ring of lead. The whole barrel is already leaded. It is very clear this stuff is not hard cast. I had to flake some of the lead already off the front of the cylinder. This is only 5 rounds. So this ammunition is clearly not gas checked. That is terrible. That is absolutely terrible. I was going to shoot 5 more rounds for accuracy. I'm not even going to do that now. I will not be shooting this ammunition again. Man, just the quality control of so much stuff nowadays. Just terrible. I am going to shoot it in these jugs. Since I've already got them out, I've got them ready. We'll shoot one. If it doesn't do great, I probably won't shoot anymore. But that's already unimpressive. Maybe down the road I'll try to actually get some better ammunition. Maybe I'll get a Grizzly 300 grain round, but we'll see. All right. Let's see here. It blew out the side. Is that my entrance? Let's see here. My other jug. These were already kind of coming apart, but let's see. And I do not even see where that hit. That's it. That's a rock. I don't think I even need to be digging for it. I don't think it went anywhere. Oh, there's another Grizzly. One of my test shot Grizzlies. Yeah, I don't think I even need to dig for that. I don't really want to, but I'm going to shoot one more. We'll see how another one does. Okay, I've got 1 jug up instead of the 2, because I want to see if it'll at least hit the boards, because that one I don't think even hit the boards. I couldn't see any marks on it. I think it might have went out the side, or it might be in any of those jugs. But let's see here. Okay, there's the entrance. One of those has got to be the exit here. Definitely hit the board. Let's have a look-see. Oh, hey, there it is. That's mostly together. At least there's that. It is definitely chipped up and damaged all around. But again, it only had to compete with 1 jug instead of the 2 I've been using. And I think what it got through 3 boards there, maybe 4. Yeah, not super impressive. Like I said, I really won't be shooting this stuff anymore. If I didn't say it stinks, it's just in the packaging. You can smell it through the packaging. It smells like burning electronics. It smells terrible. I don't even really want to be touching it right now. But I am not very impressed with that. So down the road, like I said, I'm going to try to get some of the grizzlies, maybe the 300 grain. Maybe down the road, maybe I'll get some of the buffalo boar stuff. But we'll see. So far, this double tap has not impressed me. I really need to do a test now on my 300 grain controlled expanders, the basic jacketed soft points, because I carry 3 of those along with 3 of the Grizzly 355 grain. And if this is any, example of double tap's quality control, I don't really want to be shooting that.
So I didn't want to make this a complaining or ranting video, but this needs to be shown here. Let's see if I can see it on camera here. I've got lead on my hand. See, it picks it up here. There's lead literally flaking off front of that cylinder face. It is just cake. And what did I shoot? 6 rounds, 7 rounds, something like that. I've got lead all over the forcing cone there. This whole barrel is completely leaded. It is going to be a pain in the ass to clean this out. And it's so disappointing from a company like Doubletap that puts made in the USA, proudly made in the USA type of stuff on their ammunition. Everything's going up in price, and yet quality control is getting, less and less. It's just embarrassing. It really is, and it sucks. That's why it is so important more than ever to test your stuff. Make sure your stuff works. Hopefully videos like this are useful just for stuff like this. But I highly suggest testing your own stuff, doing your own research, because you never know. Even ammunition that works, or any product that works now, may not work tomorrow. So make sure you test your stuff. Sorry this video kind of turned into a complaining video, but anyways, you guys have a good one. Thanks for watching my video.